expect if your hour takes us to 7:30, then I'm gonna hit them with the plans.
Oh, man.
Trying to get an information.
Yeah, I highly doubt it.
That's fine. I just need enough time to ask questions. Aaron, you want to do the walk first and then?
After Tobin. Tobin's got to go.
Okay.
Tobin first. Nope, we're trying to do it.
I figured that's what I.
Yeah,
We'll meet him
I
free.
kind of looked into it. Yeah.
Everything up there, you're just going to use it. It would be great to have. Have a projection. Yeah.
All right, we're past our 6:30 start time.
And I want to eat them.
Stand says pledge allegiance.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I need a motion to declare open to be so moved. Seconded. Declare the meeting, all in favor, say aye. Opposed, no. Notification of the Open Meetings Act is spoken on the door, the back of the room. Roll call. Justin.
President.
Myself, yes. Wyatt.
Here.
Dave.
Here.
Chance. Here. Okay, number 6, approve the agenda. We have
We need to move 10 up right away. First discussion item because Tobin has a cover for a colleague in Windside yet tonight.
okay, move the Q&A and patrons up.
So we just moved 10 to the top, so 10 will become 7 and then bump everything down.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as stated with the movement of 10 to the top.
Tim, I'm sorry, excuse me, I understand what you're saying. So we can certainly include Q&A while Tobin's here. I get what you're saying. Okay, thank you, Chance, I got it. Make your motion.
Thanks. Yeah. Thanks, Steve.
I'll
Got a second?
I'll second.
Moving second to approve the agenda with that following change to move 10 up to the top of the discussion items. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carried. Well,
Yeah.
we'll take
I'll take question and answer.
So, we'll turn it over then to Tobin.
Yeah, if you can pull those slides up there, that'll help. Just those 3 slides.
That one or the other?
So Jeff's going to throw a few of these on the tables just for reference. You really, I'm just going to go over tonight. We want to start to bring in some of the financial impact information and give you some base knowledge of how bond elections going forward and how the tax impact is different since 2022. If you haven't met me before, I'm Tobin Buchanan with Northland. I've got Jeff Schneider here as well. We're the municipal advisor to the district. So our role right now is to try to help, as you start to look at project amounts and potential bond amounts, start to help you determine what that might look like from an individual tax impact standpoint. And so these slides, what I want to walk you through is get a basic understanding of how for a voted bond election, we actually are going to have to use a whole different valuation number for the bond levy than your normal school taxes. In 2022, LB2 went into effect, became law, reducing ag land to 50% of actual or market value for the purposes of a bond election. So your district valuation for this fiscal year is just over $1 billion. So that's the valued and taxable property and ag land and buildings and commercial property across your entire district. That's the number the board used this year when they set your general fund and building fund and other taxes for the school. And so that's how all other school taxes are determined, tax levies. But for a bond, if there's going to be a bond, and for the purposes of calculating the bond tax impact, the valuation for that is projected at $832 million. That has the ag land in your district reduced from 72% taxable value to 50% of market value. So that's a new number. So right down there at the bottom, what that means is for every penny that's levied or put on a tax for a bond payment, it generates $83,000 on that $832 million versus the normal school tax levy that generates about $105,000. So in essence, it creates a higher bond levy because some of the tax burden is shifted off of ag land onto everybody's property, not just residential, not just commercial, but also property on the farm. Off of ag land, somewhat, onto property. So the next slide, I'm not going to go deep into this. I just want to point out that the way we figure that is there's a report from the Department of Revenue that breaks out the ag land only in your district. So we take that number and reduce it down to that 50% to come up with that 832 million number. So I'm not going to walk through this slide. If you're really interested in all that and want to dig into how'd you come up with this new valuation for our bond, that's kind of the flow of that. So let's just take that to the next slide to give you an example of what that means. So if we look at this slide, just contemplates, just for discussion purposes tonight, you scroll down a little bit at the top, a $25 million bond. We created a sheet for you tonight as you get into discussions that's going to show you some different bond amounts, and it's going to show you some tax impact tables for a 20-year bond or a 25-year bond. None of this has been decided. It's just for your purposes tonight to start to work through things. So I just want to walk you through what that, I'll call it a cheat sheet, and it is going to show you. So right here we have a 20-year box with a $25 million bond. Using that LB2 valuation I showed you, that $832 million, that means the bond levy would need to be 22 cents times that valuation to bring in the dollars to make that bond payment. When I say bond payment, I mean principal and interest each year. Sometimes we get questioned that, yeah, if it's a $25 million bond, you guys aren't talking about the interest. Well, the interest is included in these calculations for a bond payment. So if there is a $25 million bond over 20 years and there's a 22-cent bond levy, it's pretty easy on the property. 22 cents on $100,000 of property is $220 a year. 22 cents, $100,000, $220 a year that you would pay toward that bond payment. On the ag land down below, $1 million of actual value means if you could sell that irrigated quarter for $1 million of actual value, the bond value, the taxable value on the bond for that would be $500,000 times that levy. So we're already doing that in this calculation. We're taking that $1 million actual or market value, we're taking it down to that LB2 $500,000 times that 22-cent levy to give you the cost per year or cost per month on ag land. And so the other box simply looks at what if it was a 25-year bond. So there's 5 years more of payment, principal and interest, but it does lower the levy to about 19.64 by stretching it out. And then that table just shows you what that would be on property and on ag land. So the sheet we have tonight, I don't know if you can hold it up. I think
There's a few at every table.
No, I was talking about this one. So when you dig in tonight, start talking more about project amounts and all this and that. So we've created just this sheet for you that shows a 20 million, 25 million, 30 and 35, just for purposes tonight, and those same tables to kind of give you an idea of what the levy would be and the tax impact. So we're hoping that that will help with your discussion, kind of fold in that financial impact preliminary information to couple with some of the discussions you're having about priorities and project scope and so on. Anything unclear or confusing about that for right now? We're not taking off now. We'll be here till 7:30, so we apologize, we have to run to another meeting, but wanted to kind of lay that foundation for the financials tonight. Anything, board, you guys can think of that isn't clear or confusing about?
So these would be definitive numbers based on our valuation, calculations for ag land, calculations for residential property, these would be real numbers. So when our friends from Hausman tell us, okay, if you're looking at this project, we're able to give you a narrow range, not a precise number, but narrow enough to where we could apply it to one of these boxes.
Yeah, these are preliminary numbers based off of current bond rates at a 20-year. I'll say a 20-year bond rate right now would be, let's say, 4.25% average bond rate on a 20-year. A 25-year is going to be a little higher than that. So we're using current bond rates. We're using the length of the bond to create that P&I payment and the amount. At this point in time, using your district's valuation and what we would project to be your LB2 valuation, which includes that reduction in ag land. So it is preliminary but definitive using your district numbers, current bond rates, those two different bond lengths, and 4 different bond sizes, approximate, just for discussion.
Is the valuation locked in for the term of the bond, or as valuation changes, will the bond payments change?
Right, so each year, so more than likely, if it is decided to move forward with a bond issue sometime next year, by the time the bonds are actually taxed, you'll have a new valuation. You'll have a new regular school valuation that's for next year and a new bond valuation. I don't know what that is yet, so we're using the point in time valuations from this fiscal year for the purposes of our discussion tonight. If valuations would go up, your principal and interest payment is locked in once you sell the bonds. If valuations go up, the board doesn't have to levy as high to bring in the same dollars to make that payment. So as valuations increase, levies can come down, but most of you will tell me it's not really about the levy, it's about the payment. But you need to know the levy for tonight to start to figure out potentially what your impact would be. And you could pretty easily take one of these and divide it and figure out per million what that might be, because there's a chance if there is a bond, it won't be an even 5 million number, but for the purpose of tonight, we're just using those benchmarks to give you an idea.
So how do you come up with market value?
So, good question. So the numbers we're getting are from the 2025 Nebraska Department of Revenue report for your district and your counties. There's several different market areas and blends. So that report gives us kind of an average per acre irrigated dry and grassland. So sometimes we'll show a irrigated dry and grassland approximate per acre impact, but it can so widely vary depending on what, if you have ag land, what yours is. So that's why we're showing that. So we've been told, and we've been talking to different county assessors. It sounds like even different counties put it out differently. So if you're an ag landowner and you get your property statement, I always assume they were showing you on that statement your taxable value. So your ag land is already being represented at that 72 to 75% of actual value or market value or appraised value. And so that's what you're currently paying taxes on, is your taxable value. Sometimes I call it assessed value, which I don't know if that's correct. So it's already been reduced for the purposes of taxes. LB2 takes it from that 72% of actual value to 50%, just for the purposes of a bond. So I think you all probably know your values better. All we can pull it from is kind of some of the reports out there that show average per acre taxable value throughout your district.
So the whole district is treated the same, not individual pieces of
Yeah, so if I'm an ag land owner and I know I've got $1 million in actual value or market value. If I look at my tax statement, I think I'm being taxed right now on $720,000 times the levies for the school and all that. For the bond, I'm going to be taxed on $500,000. So we end up, when we get more specific and we have a number and an amount. We create tax calculators that an individual can go in and basically put in their valuation, and it'll tell you the impact per year. We'll get there, we'll get more specific, I guess, and allow, our goal is to have people be able to figure out their own personal impact. Once things are more defined, we know how long the board is thinking about issuing it for. We know what the amount might be. Then we'll really hone in and make sure that people can calculate correctly, how does this impact me? So we do get there. For tonight, it's more broad. Yes, sir.
So if this isn't set in stone, even after the bond issue is done, the valuation still change. What if Pillen finds a way to change the whole taxable farmland deal? Can that screw this whole thing up down the road?
I don't know the exact answer to that. Once you issue bonds and the district signs off on something called a bond purchase agreement, that becomes a contract, basically, to pay those back. It's based on the current assessed valuations. How the state might alter that with what valuations do, I don't know the answer to that. I think it's very difficult all of a sudden after those are in place to say there's a whole new way to tax them. I mean, they would almost, I don't know the answer to this, almost have to come in and fill in that difference somehow, because the district's contractually obligated to pay those bonds back. My ability tonight is only to give you kind of where things sit today, but those questions have come up, obviously at different times with the different ideas that have come out there with how things will be assessed.
The precedents of the past by the unicameral, when they make changes to these processes, is they have precedent. They
Grandfather,
grandfathered
mostly.
folks in because locally they made that decision. They have a contract, they're contractually obligated, both sides. And so it's moving forward. So that's been precedent, which isn't to say
For
they
example,
couldn't do something different.
districts that have bond issues prior to LB2, their ag land still assessed how it was when that bond was passed. Their ag land did not all of a sudden get reduced to 50%. It's how it was at the point where that was voted on and put into place. So I want to say it's completely grandfathered, but they may come up with something, I don't know, that, who knows? But we don't really have the ability tonight to figure out what that might look like. This will continue to evolve and get more specific and more detailed as your process does. The goal is tonight hopefully to give you some ability to look at different amounts and get a feel for what that would look like from an impact standpoint, just to give you a reference point as you work through that process.
This isn't the last meeting that Tobin will
No,
come to.
we're not leaving right
as
now.
well. So I mean, even after Tobin and Jeff move on to their next meeting, I mean, they'll be back, maybe in 2 weeks, if that's when it's determined that, you know, we'll meet again. We've been meeting every 2 weeks for several months, so Tobin isn't going away for good. After tonight, he'll be back.
Any more questions anybody have for Tobin while he's up here?
Could we make this document accessible publicly?
Yep.
So, I mean, I wouldn't throw it out there to the public right now because it's so preliminary.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a part of a public meeting right now. But if I mean, you understand, you're putting out bond amounts right now that haven't even been discussed. So that's just my cautionary warning. I would want to wait till we further define and help people understand it, but that's your choice. I mean, this has a lot of possible and preliminary information, but it is your document. And
I mean,
so,
the reason why I'm asking is the what if, I mean, are we spending 25 million, are we spending 15 million, are we gonna spend 30 million?
Right.
You know, we're all kind of all over the board, honestly, on opinions, at least it gives everybody an idea. You know, well, maybe we're in that 30 million range, maybe we're not that, maybe we're in that 20 million range.
Right.
At least the handle I've got,
it's for 25 million, and kind of like to have some more calculations anyway.
Yeah, and that one, that
There's a lot of
slide
people
there
here
was.
that aren't, there'll be a lot of people asking questions anyway that aren't here. Be nice to have something in front of them.
Well, it's public now, I mean.
It's public.
So, I mean, our guests here tonight.
Right.
We'll take it, and that we just need to make sure that our public
make a
knows
disclaimer
no
that
decisions have been made.
None of these have been, no
on any
decisions have been
scope
made.
Yep.
or any length of bond.
I would just add, that's why we've been doing this every 2 weeks. I mean, for those of you who've been part of these meetings every 2 weeks, you can see that there's a process that we have to follow, because we can't make all of these decisions in one night. You have to look at what the needs of the buildings are, you have to look at the architectural solutions, you have to look at the realities of the financial impacts depending on what you do, you have to look at the cost estimates that Houseman will likely present in 2 weeks. So I agree with Tobin, it's part of the path, but it's not the answer, and nothing on that sheet is set in stone. It's a tool to be used to help us get to a solution, but it's not the solution.
And the only reason you have the one slide in that first set is I just wanted to walk you through an example of what the tables are trying to show you. So no real rationale for that one, just picked one to walk you through before you ended up with this sheet in your hand. Just to show you how that information was being presented.
Okay.
Yeah, if we put it out there, I just hope everybody would make it clear that nothing's been decided. This is all just working discussion information at this point.
Yep.
Any other question, comments?
I do. When my parents graduated from Plainview, there were 60 people plus in their class. That was in the early 70s. When I graduated in '96, we had 23. When my daughters graduated in 2019, there were 13. My other daughter, when she graduated in 2021, there were 16. And when my son is going to graduate in 2032, which seems crazy, right now, there's only 25 kids in that class. So I'm wondering, is this actually the best thing to do for the farmers, for the citizens, to have this taxes when the numbers of the students aren't even close to where they were from in the 70s or 80s, and we keep going down? It's just concerning to me. I believe our students deserve a great facility. They deserve the best teachers. They deserve the best of the best. But we're looking at millions of dollars. That's where I'm concerned about, because I don't see the growth right now. And from the 90s all the way down to the 2000s, I'm not seeing the growth, and I really feel that we need to see some type of growth in the elementary before we can even start planning for the future. I mean, if my son is graduating in 2032 at 25 kids, and I graduated in 1996, very proud of that, with 23 kids, not much has changed in that class size. And we were able to manage in the same size of school. We had the same equipment, we had the same gyms. I know that the kids deserve the best, but at this rate, at this cost, that scares me. And I think that scares a lot of people, and it scares a lot of the farmers who are going to be footing the bill with these taxes.
Yeah, Julie, I can speak to enrollment trends. And yeah, in the early 70s, we had our peak enrollment, which was about twice what our current enrollment is. But we have seen an increase in enrollment steadily over the past 8 years. So let me go back to the 5-school merger talks. They did a census study.
I was late. I'm sorry. I might have missed that.
No, yeah. They did a census study, and they projected during the 5-school talks that in 2021 and 22, our enrollment would be 214. Well, it was 314. So at that time, they tried to project an enrollment out well beyond who we already had in school, which however they did that, I don't know. But our current enrollment of 360 is up from 315 just 8 years ago. So we've seen a marginal enrollment increase, but we're not continuing to see an enrollment decline that, quite frankly, we experienced generally for the better part of several decades. Okay, but it's not so much about space. This isn't so much about we need more space for more kids. It's about the quality of the space we have. You had mentioned, it's the same equipment and the same space, and that is true. It's the same school that our great-grandparents went to. Okay, so it's really about modern facilities and how education has changed and the services that are required for students has changed, more so than we're running out of space. So yes, in our elementary, we do average about 25 students per class. We've got a couple of spikes in first grade over 30, and our juniors are over 30. Our smallest 2 grades are sophomores and seniors. And then we have an average of 25 all the way down into pre-K. What's coming after that, I guess, I wouldn't want to project. But it's not so much about that we're running out of space. We could add students to most of our classes in the high school. We have several elementary school classrooms that are pretty doggone full with 24 kids. But we could fit more kids in our high school space. But it's the fact that space is 50 and 70 and 80 and 100 years old. And I'm glad that you mentioned the teachers, because it is always about the teacher. The teacher is more important than the space or the resources, but you put them in a modern space with modern resources, and you put that teacher in a much better position to engage kids and inspire kids. So our enrollment has grown over the past several years. We're not continuing to see a steady decline.
I just don't feel that we're at the point that we're growing so fast that we need to add 3 wrestling gyms, or that we need to add another basketball court. These plans are just extravagant. And where, my 2 daughters graduated with less than 20 kids in their class, and my son in 2032 is graduating with 25 at the current mark. That room for growth, I don't see it.
So it's good that you're here, because we're not adding 3 wrestling gyms. We're adding 2 wrestling rooms, 1 for boys and an equal 1 for girls, because we're going to lose our wrestling room when the 1920 building, goes away. So it's 2. So that's good that you're here, so that there's a clear understanding of what's still on the table as far as the scope of project.
And that plan's not for certain, what's in the paper. This is still going to be discussed. That's what we're here doing tonight, is looking at the cost impact of all those things. This is just a plan that we're currently working with. We're not saying we're going to do everything that's in.
By no means is anything set in stone at all.
No, and I understand that. I just wanted to voice my opinion.
What can really kick a lot of this off is we have a building that's failing. 1920 building, guys, it's 105 years old, and we've got 2 letters from structural engineers that saying that it's in a state that it's going to fail. We did enough to patch it up this last year. We spent $15,000 anyway to basically just get it to it can be able to be used as it is right now. But the top floor of that right there, right now we have floors that are sagging. They're spailing. It's not in good shape, guys. We have bathrooms that can't be used over there. We've talked about trying to fix them, and it's $100,000 for each bathroom to try and fix. We try and fix them, we open up anyway a remodeling project in there. Then we open ourselves up to fire code inspections, electrical inspections. All of a sudden the dollars just start going into just a ridiculous amount of money for still a building that's 105 years old. So we have facility needs right there, and that kind of spawned in the rest of this. And Julie, you're right. I mean, and look at everybody that's up here at this table, right? We're all involved in ag, every one of us. So we know exactly what you're talking about. And we're doing our best to listen to each side of it and to try and find the best solution for everybody. as is the committee that's out there sitting with you right now. So, we understand, but realize that we do have to do something. We have a building that is in disrepair, that's not gonna be able to be used very soon. It's not ADA accessible. We have to figure out a solution, at least for that building alone, okay? So.
How many kids are graduating this year?
This year's one of our smaller classes, 21. Yeah, so I've got our enrollment from last school year, you know, up on, and so we're higher this year than we were last year. But that was last year's, about a year ago this time. So this class and our sophomores are our two smallest classes, and then we're, like I said, we average about 25.
I will reiterate that it's not about the class and the sizes. It's about the structure of the building. I mean, we've got the music kids, if you have a kid who's on crutches, they have to go outside the building and around the door. If they can't get down, if they're in a wheelchair, they gotta go outside during the winter and in the side door. They can't get the instruments out of the music room up the stairs. They gotta go outside in the elements and back in through the door. It's stuff like that, or the locker rooms for the visitors for the junior highs. I mean, they are original.
75 years old.
75 years old. They are embarrassing. It's sad. You need to look at them. I mean, it's not a good representation for the school. Our gym is 50 years old. I mean, there's repairs that need to be done. And is that what we need to focus on, is just the repairs? I mean, we need to do the updates. I get the gym, you know, the question, that the updates definitely need to be done, because there is a lot of things that are structurally not good that we need to, you know, address.
If I can piggyback on that real quick too, I did lay at most every table some, a couple sheets of information there. I think there's a front and a back that looks like this and this. And I essentially wanted to put this together because of information I heard coming out of Pierce when theirs failed. I don't know the history or if it's accurate. I just know that some people were like, why didn't you maintain things? Because there was, whether there was all kinds of millions of dollars for maintenance and upkeep, you know, I don't know if it's true or not, but there seemed to be some people that thought, well, Pierce, why didn't you maintain all this all these years? And I'm not saying that we don't have some places that need to be maintained, but I did want you to see a history of the past 10 years or so, what our board is committed to in investment in maintaining. So these are millions of dollars, 4.6 million that's been spent on maintaining your facilities, which is not going to be in this bond issue, because everything that's on here that was done won't have to be undone. And so I commend our board going back the past 10 years, and some of these were expensive. Some of these were 3-year lease purchase expenses. You know, the air quality in the elementary, and the sprinkler system, and the updated efficient lighting and ceiling tile and grid, which were original from 1964. I mean, so the board has really done a fabulous job over the past decade at investing in our existing facilities. But when I took them in the 1920 building, for example, to say, hey, we've got to do something here, they're like, no, we're not putting money in here. We're just not putting money in here. Twice since I've been here, they said, we're just not going to invest in this space. Okay? And there's been a few other spaces, but I think this is an important document that I did inherit this, but I just continued to keep it up after I arrived. And then I did put on the back, I put dollar figures to those maintenance investments over the past 10 years. And so the board's done a great job of keeping up with that, because that's $4 million plus that won't be asked in this project.
I think another thing to point out is that there's certain programs that we can't offer right now, you know, that's becoming more important, like the career fields, the career technical, you know, the trades, automotive, things like that. We don't have the space nor the facilities for any of that stuff, and we see that as being important, you know, down the road.
more and more students going into that type of thing.
Yeah, our shop space is, that's another example right there that needs a severe upgrade. You know, we talk about career technical fields anyway, but our school is lacking in that. We wanna have these boys and girls anyway to come back anyway and learn a trade anyway, or contribute to our community anyway. Well, it needs to start here. Having like I said, wood shop, welding, automotive tech, a whole CTE wing would be a huge asset anyway to our community and to the school.
CT is career tech ed or skilled trades.
We also have like kids meeting one-on-one with special needs people in closets right now.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not real cool. Like in a little dungeon.
Well, those are all things we're continuing to evaluate, you know, the importance of each one and the financial impact that that's gonna have, so. But we appreciate the crowd that's here tonight coming out. We've got a great crowd here that's interested in this, so. But
Yeah, I mean, just the layout everybody saw on the front page of the paper, that's version 15. You know, every 2 weeks it looks different. We keep meeting and talking about what matters, what doesn't matter. And then the idea was to get all the wants, all the needs put together, and then we start having meetings like this where Tobin comes in, we start talking the financial impact, and then we decide what we really need, what we really want. So again, that's not set in stone. That's just the most latest version that's come about from our meetings that we're having every couple of weeks, and we're here to keep talking about it.
So yeah, to be cognizant, I guess, of everybody's time, we do need to kind of keep moving on too. But if there's any other questions there, I think we'll have time. You're welcome to stay through the committee meeting if you'd like and ask questions after you kind of see what the committee's up to. You're welcome to do that as well. We do need to kind of move on with reviewing our floor plan that we got from last month's meeting, and I think we also had a few areas of the school we wanted to actually get eyes on and look at. We need to get to as well.
Yeah. If we can just, since we've got such a great crowd here, and our school is always open, if anybody wants to come and put eyes on some space, especially when you see, you know, a version 15 of a floor plan. Okay, why would we be doing this new? Don't we already have one of those? Well, I think it's important that you see that. We're going to take just 10 minutes. I want to walk you through just a couple of spaces, if you can. Don't have to, but certainly would welcome you to join me. We're going to do a quick walkabout. Be right back here in 10 minutes. In that time, Bob and Sawyer are going to post large copies of the floor plan that you saw in the paper, and we're going to put them at the tables to facilitate your discussion. So we would ask committee members to occupy the round tables. Folks from the community, we would ask you to sit in the back or around the ends and observe the committee members in their brief discussion, and then we'll have a share out and a Q&A. Okay, we're going to go this way.
There were some good songs on there. Some good songs on there. Walk This Way by Aerosmith was one, and Separate Worlds by Journey, or Separate Ways by Journey.
Hi, Cheryl. How are you? Not going on the door? Okay, all right.
Do you go to high school wants to do on Monday night? Get a rough feel of what things you can cut to hit a target number, and that's the
I don't know, it's a lot to take in. There's
Because there is the thing about it is that it's such a minor use thing. It's not like, I don't feel like it's working down.
But I think it should, I think it should be, when we think about doing it later, that should become our locker rooms and that's why supposed to.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
But the children's baseball, because they use volleyball.
Yeah. They do, but it just does not bother me at all. Because, I would say like, even at like television, they're posting but they're kind of intended to be that way. So, like, you're not supposed to be comfortable. And I don't know if that's the best logic I have for it, but like, that's the logic I'm like, people. It just, I don't know, it just seems to be very difficult for me to justify spending money on something. We don't get any use out of it. I don't know, because you're right, it's like all the locker rooms that we've been to, this would have been on the higher side of what they, yeah, I mean, there's just a lot, I mean, all the schools down here, old buildings. So, I don't know, it's just one of those things where it's just, and if, I would say if, say like our locker rooms, we didn't spend all that money on a couple years ago.
We're just having a discussion over there. So let's say your house is $100,000.
Okay.
And you pass them
Money on that. Makes me not
and
want to do that.
3 years from now, valuations go down. You still gotta generate enough revenue to pay.
They were great. Oh, yeah.
You're still,
They're very nice.
your taxes, I don't know how they said it.
Tax
Come over there.
Yeah, I'm not saying they were.
dollar amount should stay pretty cool.
Yeah, 'cause you're gonna have to generate enough revenue to pay this.
Depends on what the group total valuation
Total,
is, right?
yeah.
But it should stay fairly.
I'm not gonna argue with it. They look bad.
They're just saying, what happened, drops our valuation, you know, when they locked in at a bond.
And I read through the interest payments. It could be refinanced.
Yeah, I get it.
I just really think this being a thing you do to bond, whenever in the future, I think that is gonna sell so many people on the bond. Because it's something that, so you don't have to, if we do fully consolidate, you know, go with, then this is more of a preference. Or now it's one more than need. So I think that in theory sell itself in the future.
Yes.
So, I think it needs to be, I like how they did it in the plan, and I think that's, in my opinion, because at the last meeting, like we said, this would be a future thing, and then this, I think, this school should do on its own time. Just grab it now.
So with your taxes,
And then 5 years or whatever,
so now my
they
house
can do the whole thing. Part of the school.
my taxes gonna be that.
The problem when I heard this was that they don't want the street closed because they use them.
And you still grab it so you have parking.
Moving that,
I would mind if you were handicap or,
But they're saying they can walk from here to here. You know,
you walk
unless
from
they
here
park
to
here.
here.
Yeah, but if they go to the elementary school, there's someplace where they park like they've got an elementary program.
Whatever your homestead exemption is
well, I think handicap parking is so bad. But in general, it's gonna get worse. I'm not gonna disagree.
Yes, and that's.
And well, also I guess one other thing is for now,
Yeah,
you have it right, you have parking here as well.
That's true.
So then you,
apply to this new
yeah,
one.
but I agree, you're not, there's no close way to get in parking in.
Well, that was just, she was like, she's like, I can't walk anymore. I think, I don't
Yeah,
want to.
that's true. I hadn't really thought about that, but unfortunately, I don't think it's right. I just think
So you would have seen that in your numbers.
Well, yeah, that's already
I
factored in.
this is, I think it'd be done now, you're right.
Yeah, I do too.
For the entire district, the homestead exemption already locked in.
I would just like to know what the individuals.
Gives you help fishing, Bob?
I can rip them and you can just set them on a table.
I don't think there's a number that the school would spend on this, that we. I very much agree. But the problem is, like, you brought up like this, you know, you wanna do all these programs. then it creates, you pack the office. Because if you do it and then there's just the same thing, then what was the point of building the space? I mean, other than any of them. Doc, you want 3 weeks in a row?
Oh, I've done it so many times.
I can't do it.
You can try it. You can try it. Yeah, there you go.
I have terrible handwriting.
Well, that's okay. You can get up and explain it.
I'll talk, I have no problem with that.
Get up and
We'll get way more down.
Yeah, no,
All the way down and we'll go.
there you go. Then you can move it up.
Hopefully this helps. Thank you, yeah.
So when Vicky gets out of line,
Yep, there you go.
No, I was just very good at it. I mean, I understand what the football game went on, but.
No, we're in gym, split it in half, one, half the girls, half the boys.
You were there early.
Like I said,
There you go.
Oh, we don't want-
You're moving up in the world.
yeah. They trust me with Sharpie now. You need to get a folder. This thing is kind of filled up.
I've seen
with
better
stuff.
days. It's gonna have to get a bigger one.
Yeah. Too much stuff for these meetings.
So did you get home Wi-Fi? You don't have home
Oh, yes. Yes, it changed, you know, from Mary Joseph and whatever.
Well, I didn't know what they were selling. You found out what it was. Billy did.
Well, she said one, and then she goes, no, I think it changed. So Father took a picture. I
The
wrote
other
it
thing I
down,
think
it's on the
you
inside.
need to
Yours?
More to do later.
Oh,
We wrote it on the page.
I don't think it's.
no, that's all yours.
On his side. And then we,
They could fix that in the budget.
Yes, that's what I'm saying, like that, I think, this parking lot, I think would be easy, you know, not to say 500,000 is nothing, but in terms of what this is, it helps.
I would agree too. Get all this down.
Yeah, well, I think if you did this off, just grabbed this and took this off, these two things off,
yes, you should.
I mean,
But it's where
this was
it's
7, this was 2, and that's probably another 500 apiece. So,
They're on that side. Open the lawn.
The rest of the isn't it just one big?
I think the last time they said that they could put a wall there,
Yeah, so it's really just,
it's basically one.
I'm gonna sell it as one, just say I had 2 rests.
Well, and one thing, if we're, I thought of this was, if we're getting all this building stuff up there, like moving stuff, these need to now be massive, and this needs to be extra room. I think it would be all of the four classes are all 17.
Well, yeah, 'cause they put you on the tour.
I know the tour.
Me too. I've been in one of these 2 buildings like all of my life.
You're the overachievers, you're getting started.
I thought about this 2 weeks ago.
That's why this isn't a two-way process, because it takes time. Good idea.
That's the kitchen for.
Comparing what happens when you move one room to the other
Hold in the
side.
kitchen section, feeds everybody.
Maybe I should wait. Do you have even a rough guesstimate of what?
Kind of a common.
Houseman will have that in 2 weeks. But if you look at what I told you last time with the chart, if you took everything on the plan, your summer would be 33%. If you had all the yellows and all the greens, which is generally what this is, that's the high end, right? So, your group is either gonna be okay with,
They're on a tour.
let's stay with the higher end, or
Go
let's
catch up
start
with, go catch
finding
up
a
with
way
the gym
to.
if you want, hire Jim.
Let's find a way to hit some of these other numbers, right? That's why Tobin is sharing this down, giving you ranges, so that you can see what happens when. Yes. And that's the other piece, you wanna talk about, what are the things, I heard you talking about, well.
So what's this?
They're puzzle pieces, right?
This one could actually be bad.
I've gotta have your group tell me which of the puzzle
The other
pieces.
thing is, now that we're moving CSU, basically one other question. Actually 2, because art's moving and now SPED is moving, so there's basically being 10 new rooms created. Because if you're saying there's 8 in the junior high that had been replaced in the building, or we're gaining 2 more by this space, moving them from there over 2. Not that 2 rows getting cut out of that is really anything.
Right. And I
I
would.
have a meme being based out of the Netherlands, so all my YouTube ads are in Dutch.
Well, no, I'm just because, like, you know, it's like our that's not a room, this was spent.
Because I have to give,
So the golf knows
I don't have a free one.
well, the first time.
I might do like Surfshark 1 plus student discount.
But they're not really or otherwise put it in.
There wasn't one for
I think.
Hey, what, you're gonna get barbecue sauce all over Mrs. Yill's books?
The books are over there.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Hey, folks,
If,
one thing here.
Wyatt has an offer for you.
Yep, if you're not in one of the facility groups and maybe you haven't really been around the school much anyway, I'll take anybody that wants to up to the 1920 building right now. Take them across those 3 floors.
Anything
Okay?
flying around up there?
Haven't had that
Likely.
lately.
Likely.
I don't think so. It's like shooting. I don't have any hair. Okay, fine.
Mine.
Anybody wants to see it?
Take them to the industrial arts, the wood.
You're right, I'll take them to the woods area too if I can get
If you want a little more thorough look at a couple of other spaces, Wyatt will take you about. Okay, otherwise we're going to turn it over to Bob. Committee members, please sit at a round table.
Same thing, I don't care if you're in the same groups that you were last week. I just want you in a group at one of the 6 tables, the board members. I would ask you to join one of the 6 tables again like we did last time, so you can see part of the discussion. And then we will share out the discussion once we're done collaborating.
Waits an hour.
partake with you.
So we definitely have the film and
Your weed is on the right.
I'd love to. If that's the purpose I serve, here we go.
Committee members, you can't form a table of 8 to 10. I need you in small groups. So if there's an empty table, stay in small groups. This table's too big, you got 2 minutes.
But they're not all,
Oh, you're not all committee members? Okay.
This space.
Do you need more
first space
another committee
is
member over
like-
here? If nothing else, we'd like a few more people over here.
So
I can jump over here, well, then we've got 2 deals on committee.
located.
I'll go over
I've
here.
been in
Tim
this
and I.
school for like 5 years now. I stay
Pat.
for both ways for 2 hours.
Okay, so we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We should go come up with 2 ideas.
I don't have
Do you guys want me to speak from the big plan or speak from these plans here?
Well, I'm just thinking right here. Take it out.
I'll just be a little farther away if I can.
Yes. Yes.
Can you zoom in on that one?
Correct.
Can you zoom in on that one? Yeah.
Keep your comments.
There you go.
That's what first.
So when he's talking about space,
He can zoom in. You'll be the,
okay, go Bob.
I'll be the man of white.
Yeah.
Okay, so again, to orient everybody, north is to the left. We are all in this space right here, which is shown as being some replacement classrooms. Blue on this plan represents areas where we're coming in and renovating existing space. Your green boxes are new construction, okay? So we're trying to differentiate between renovated spaces and new construction. As we've gone through this process, we used to have more green boxes on multiple areas of the building. We've combined some spaces. We've already eliminated some spaces to get to kind of 2 big ideas, right? One is, how do we get a single facility that combines elementary and high school so that we no longer have kids exiting the facility to go to different classes? Because right now you have everybody at the high school goes to the elementary for lunch. Everybody at the elementary comes back over to the high school to utilize the gym or art class. So we're trying to solve that issue of walking through the exterior and the school barricading off the street during the day when those activities happen, just so students can freely walk without vehicles coming through. On the other corner, here's where we talked about 1920s, our 105-year-old building. That occupies this space right here now, and then our wood shop, our music department are all right here. So as part of trying to no longer put investments of money into the 1920s building, we assume that we're tearing that down, as well as the woods area. To further the discussion of not having kids walk, we have the separate ag facility that's across the parking lot. All of that, woods, welding, automotive, everything combines on this side of the building. You can see this time, last time we had one big rectangle. Now we've tried to define some more spaces for you so you can see how that could work. If those of you that remember that went on the tour and saw Laurel's new CTE wing, where they have one teacher and he kind of commands everything. They have welding, they have woods, they have the CAD. That's similar to what we're trying to do here, right? We have some doors to the exterior. And again, just like I say, Tobin's numbers are all preliminary. This can still change. But we know when you have a shop space like this, you're going to want to bring projects in and out, so we need overhead garage doors. If you want a vehicle lift in there, we're showing that. Whether you have 1 or 2 staff, that can change over the years. So we want to try to have a facility, or I do as a designer, where if you have 2 teachers, great. We have the space. You could have 2 separate offices. They could each work different sides of the facility. But if you ever got back down to 1, that 1 teacher, whether he's in the ag classroom with hopefully some windows, in the CAD classroom, teaching woods or automotives, and he has a student doing a welding project, they have command of the whole space so that they can see. Because a lot of times we'll have, in the rural communities with CTE labs, you'll have students that have a study hall, or they have time to come in, they want to throw another coat of paint on their project, they want to keep doing a little bit of welding while they have the study halls, but you might not have the staff that can supervise that. Well, in a more open floor plate like this, you do have that ability. So this is, and Sora, correct me if I'm wrong, this is a little bigger than what they saw in Laurel. Yeah, right? So when I say CTE, I'm really saying basically from here to here, right? All of that. We have a little bit of custodial space dedicated in here. And then on the other side, we've brought the family and consumer science over. And then we have 2 of our replacement classrooms. This is a point of discussion for you guys. We had a previous plan where we had, remember, we had locker rooms and we had fitness over here. Part of the discussion was, well, geez, that's so far away from, if you're looking at a competition gym, getting the locker rooms back and forth didn't make a lot of sense. So we did move lockers to be closer to this gym plan. But then fitness felt really far away from any other lockers, right? So when you look at the second floor plan, we took 2 of those classrooms. Last time we had 6. Well, fitness is roughly about 2 of those classroom spaces. So if fitness is on this part of the building, your lockers are right here, you're down the steps and you're a lot closer than you would be if we put it on the other side of the building or where the CTE lab is, right? So that's the change in this plan. I'm not saying that's where it has to stay. I'm just trying to show you options of how do you balance where the existing lockers are, where the new lockers are. If we're trying to connect this corridor, which your fitness right now, your weightlifting equipment, everything is in here. This was another piece of the discussion, was trying to get a circulation loop so that kids don't have to cut through the gym to get to the locker rooms today. We're showing you some different options for where fitness could go. And right now that's on the second floor of the addition. Yep, above your entrance. Okay, so that's why, to get back to where I started, we have 2 classrooms that are then on the far south end of the facility. Now, we're not programming what that is. We've had some preliminary discussions with the school staff. They see some ideas and some synergies that could happen with 2 classrooms there versus the fitness then being up by the wrestling rooms on the second floor. Okay? Media center is still up here with computer lab classroom. We're vacating from both this room and the elementary to have 1 combined, so both high school and elementary come to 1 common space. To gain the rooms for the pre-K and kindergarten renovations. We close off what used to be cafeteria here and your kitchen space. This could then function as a preschool entrance. So you have your 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds in here. We take part of that space and keep a teacher workroom for the staff, and we should be gaining, yeah, you're gaining 2 classrooms there, but you also had a classroom here that was, that's still here, right?
Current workroom.
Current workroom, it stays a workroom, but it was a classroom at one time. We're just
Yes.
now making it a true workroom. Right now, it's just a storage room that you could empty it back out. We kept the elementary principal in the same spot, but I'm just showing the blue box to say we don't have to keep all those little individual rooms. We could modify some of that if we wanted another small conference room and an office. Because technically, you don't need your receptionist here anymore. This isn't your entrance. Your entrance is now to the east. But everybody questioned, well, where's the principal, where's the staff going? We're saying the elementary principal could still live here, okay? And then getting back, kitchen, serving, commons area, all of that is now as we're creating this space for the link, and we have potential for other activities, whether you have wrestling, whether you have a competition gym, whether you have this gym, we're showing that commons area. That commons area also becomes your lunchroom, so that you have one common elementary and high school space. Again, that comes down to you have one lunch space now. You just schedule your day as far as when the elementary has lunch and when the high school has lunch. That wouldn't really change. What does change is it's just now a dedicated kitchen space here with your commons area, that in the event that you had another gym or a big gathering of space and people, you always want to have a space, you know, when it's halftime, when they're going for concessions, you got to have space for them to fill as they come out. No different than what you have outside of the Pirate Gym now. Just we're gaining a little more space because it's also a lunchroom. New restrooms, you always need new restrooms when you add square footage and put more things. That's a plumbing code function as well. Band and vocal music, we've tried to keep them located in a space where they're less disruptive to some of the classrooms. They're on the wrestling side, because remember, there's a second floor above that piece. So wrestling is over the top of that space, and then your classrooms are on the other side over the commons. So when you're looking at this plan, all of those wrestling mats, that band and vocal music are down here. Okay, and let's zoom back in. The last little piece, you know, creating a corridor here. We could manipulate with some of the door locations how to get to these locker rooms, but the discussion was if there was a new gym here, you know, the old locker rooms are too far. So how could we gain some locker room spaces adjacent to the gym? We're infilling a little bit of that. So again, this is your current FCS room. This is your current high school office core here. We'd be coming from where the exterior of the building is with a passageway through there adjacent to the gym. Now on the other side of the gym, we talked about art now being centrally located so that, again, elementary and high school, you're kind of splitting the difference, putting it in between. We would pull in this plan the kiln from the other room, so this could be a combined art and pottery. Again, we just show flex classroom where the old art is. Still renovating science, infilling this to get 2 more replacement classrooms. The Tartan gym is still a gym. We're not going to touch the floor. We just talked about some renovations in the budgeting for better acoustical enhancements and improving the stage lighting, sound systems, things like that. Where the fitness was, we create that corridor and then we're left with some storage space. Depending with what happens with a gym or concessions, you know, we could maintain concessions here if we had to. And the last piece we're still showing, we touched a little bit, the 3-year-olds, the 4-year-olds, the 2 kindergartens in the old media center space, and then just some updates into the sped areas. Now that you've pulled some other spaces out, we can backfill music where music was on that area and kind of keep that corner. This is all special education for the elementary then. Questions on this?
I got a question, Bob.
Yeah.
The practice wrestling room, the mats that are gonna go in there, are those gonna be permanent? Is that what the plan is?
That'll be decided much later.
Typically they are, you typically don't wanna be moving those mats up and down.
That was where I was leading to.
Yeah. So then we'll have a storage, if we do, then we have to, we can do that, but we need to store competition mats somewhere, which takes up a lot of space. But more and more schools are going to permanent practice mats, permanent competition mats, which are stored close to your gym space.
Good question. What else?
Are those locker rooms that you've got down by the new gym, are those,
Comparable to your
like, are
current
those
ones?
gonna be the home locker rooms, or are those visiting locker rooms, or what's the plan for that?
I would say if you kept the competition gym in, we would try to make those your locker rooms, and then you'd send the visiting team to the others. Or still down below the stage. I mean, that's your call, not my call. I'm, again, reacting to the things that we heard 2 weeks ago from this groups.
They look a little smaller than the current.
They are.
The way they're drawn out.
They could grow a little bit more lengthwise. What I'm trying to avoid is wrapping your building, but if that's a valid criticism to say, well, if these are gonna be our varsity locker rooms, show me if they can be that size, because they're not right now. They are smaller.
Is the only way you get to those from the east entrance and down that corridor too? So you have to go
Down
out
this
the gym
corridor, I
and
mean, you
around the
could look at
corridor?
ways to split bleachers and have an access door. You lose some prime seating, but the question would be, okay, do you want this to be the home side and this is the visitor side? And then you don't care if you split bleachers through the center. We've done gyms like that, they cut through the center. Takema Herman's one, where they had lockers off to the side like this, and then they kind of use that as their tunnel block. The challenge is you don't normally put your scorer's table on the home side. So the scorer's table wants to sit in the center, and if you got doors coming through the center, now you got people going around your scorer's table. So
And you take the best seats out of the gym.
there's pros and
which are
cons to
right
doing
on the
it.
50-yard line.
But does that mean that we couldn't manipulate the bleachers here to have a door at the end of the bleachers so that you don't have to go out and around? You're still kind of taking a little longer path. Valid comments. Put them down on your sheets if that's a concern. We'll continue to reiterate this stuff.
Keep the locker rooms in. If you didn't want to do the gym right now, you could do just the locker rooms, couldn't you, with that plan too?
You could. All of these things that I'm trying to show you, there's certain things that we can't just pull out separately, but right now, I would tell you, that's a pretty clean line for us to be able to deal with at a later date. That's why we showed you last time a gym dead in the middle and a gym off to the side like this. And again, the rationale behind that a lot of times, again, is our corridors and where we have to try to honor some of that existing pathways just for ease of flow and supervision for students moving.
Some of the other stuff that I've heard, I guess, from this one is the band and vocal are pretty far away from the performance gym. Just geographically, they're nice big rooms and they're great, but they're just, in terms of getting the instruments down to the performance gym, how many hallways you gotta go through, up, down, to get level or not, so
As a former teacher, I don't see that being a problem
Okay.
at all. You don't do that many performances during the year.
That was kind of the conversation we had as an administrative team too, as we looked at that, Brooke, was if they were doing that once a week, that'd be different, but it's generally once a quarter, quasi, and it would be straight, wouldn't be stairs.
Piano would stay on
Obviously
the-
hallways wide enough to get
piano
the
would stay on
timpani.
the south side of the gym there in the storage area or whatever.
Depends.
Because there's no other rooms there to put
Yeah.
anything.
But the band and vocal have been in a few other places further
Sure.
away than this, and so
Sure.
This one has it as close as we have been.
Is the-
A few other Sawyers.
Yeah.
Mark
We've had
ours.
multiple locations for them, so.
Fitness over top of the admin building, is that too loud? Or admin portion, is it too loud for the administration?
Fitness is right here.
Yeah.
Second level,
Okay,
with 4 classrooms and all wrestling here.
right.
Second level.
You could flip fitness to the other side if you thought that was a bad connection, but now you're moving it again farther away from your locker rooms. So,
We have nowhere to practice.
It's things for you guys to consider. Like we said, none of this is final. Every time we hear comments like that, we go back to the drawing board. We come up with a couple other options for you.
Generally, the idea is for sure a third gym.
Say again.
Generally, the idea is for sure an additional new gym. We can't renovate. Okay, use for sure is whatever you guys say it is. That's fine. What if we just renovated the Pirate Gym and made it bigger and used that rest of that space for something else?
Yeah, can the Pirate Gym grow into the street?
Sure.
Yeah, Bob says we can do anything.
We can do anything if you got the right amount of
But that hasn't been brought up yet. It's just renovate Pirate Gym, expand the space. We really need east-west space on the Pirate Gym. We can't get 3 mats in the Pirate Gym. So if we were to go this way, that doesn't help us. We need to go this way, and we can't with the Pirate Gym. We need to go this way.
You can just kind of see those wrestling mats. Here's your circles, 1, 2, 3. Old school gyms, a lot of things built in the 60s and 70s were 100 feet, 100 by 100, simple box. Your wrestling mats are 42 by 42. Sometimes you can share some of that fallout space, but if you take 42 times 3, you need 126 feet, right? So your normal 100-foot gyms that were designed all day long 50 years ago don't fit 3 wrestling mats. So we've seen in the last decade, schools that are building new competition gyms are stretching that gym to try to get 3 mats. We've done it with as small as 120 feet by sharing some of the fallout between, you cut 12 feet off essentially, instead of having 6 feet for both mats, that center mat, we pinch that fallout area to where it's only 6 feet instead of 12 here and here. So there's ways to compromise, but the schools that have done that have also, later on, when we go back and take school tours, have said, gosh, when we did that, we should have just built 6 extra feet. So let's have the committee groups now. I want you to take 10 minutes, talk about the things you're seeing now in the plan. And what I want you to kind of keep in the back of your mind, because where we're going is what Tobin shared tonight. We had the question while you guys were out on the tour. Where are we at roughly right now with the plan that you're seeing? When we took the survey and we had the greens and the yellows, everything that kind of ranked high enough to be something to consider, when you added the ranges and you added all the greens and all the yellows, we were somewhere between 33 and 37 for a cost range. So with this information now in your group, what you need to start thinking about is, well, does that make sense? Is it all still on the table, or where do we need to start cutting? Because your committee group is the one that's going to have to decide what do you go to the school board with to say this is what makes the most sense. We thought about the wants, the needs, multiple different floor plans, and your goal by the end of the committee process is to come up with a recommendation to the school board. So that's why I have you in small groups. You might all have varying opinions. You might hear some people that say, yep, go for it all. You might have some people that say, cut it in half. I want you guys to have that discussion. That's not for me to tell you. That's for you to come up with as a committee. Okay?
Did you say that this particular plan is in the 35 range?
I would tell you, my gut tells me we're probably just under that. Probably not the 37, because we have cut some things already that were in the greens and yellows, like the daycare was still a low yellow. All right, we got a timer. You got 10 minutes.
They were over there. I heard Dale, so he was in. Twice a week, we just help truck and the garbage. He was based on this plan. I guess it's not that big. Maybe just for the concession stand for the But right here is the elementary building. This is plastic grass. I'm just gonna drill it in, so you know how you gonna get your milk truck, your groceries,
dumpsters, everything. They
I think what you do is.
They did, this is gonna eliminate that. Because you can just swap it, you hell, there's an old dumpster anyhow, dumpster system. Not gonna hurt to put dumpsters by the locker room, no, they have to send that going out of the main.
10-year thing, because it's supposed to be.
I don't know
that
what
we're
we're
working
gonna,
on. But if we get.
Whipple?
Isn't that thought about it, actually?
Yeah.
But you're also thinking right now.
Oh, really? Yep, Nancy Whipple was my speech teacher.
I don't think I've ever.
She and Reagan had the individual competition in the state office. And, basically, they both wanted to run national. And they brought committee and they felt she was maybe a better candidate right now. So she got the nod, and obviously they worked themselves. She's pretty good. It's like each chapter can send one piece.
I think this needs to be.
And Reagan can try to share if he wants.
Oh, really? You don't have to do it right now?
Because there's no way they didn't have anybody. So they suggested you have something because you got to.
I mean, I guess it's
Say mandatory. You're off college. You're on the road as an actual officer. On duty. 320 some days.
I would say that
Out of the 365 days. You are not much. Now, technically, I think it's still enrolling college. $12 hours for this. Lose your financial aid, but you're not taking. And they go, well, yeah, I suppose you could take some online. You're not taking online classes. You're not taking. You are. As big a deal as state officers are on the road 100 and some days. And that's a lot. National officers. That's your wife today.
just gotta get a bigger what's your feeling on this?
You know, I maybe take that out.
So what's good for me, what's good for the kids? I'm about
when you're looking at 35, and that includes your gym, or you're looking at 30 without it, I'm just pulling simple numbers. That seems like a pocket change. It's not a pocket change.
No,
It's not.
still.
But I don't see, they right after
it's
that.
still function.
And they shut it down. No, let's say we got one after one. I don't know, and they might all get
Oh, there was.
and then they threw the gym in. That's what I heard.
By a bunch of high school kids and their teachers.
Gym,
And
yeah.
Right by the high school. It's got the same plastic on the ends originally. It was supposed to be good for 10 years. I was talking to greenhouse people at that national station. They're like, how is that not just disintegrated?
On this particular plan, is that you're asking, or where right now? What are we doing?
Not kidding.
like all of it.
You're holding your greenhouse unit up tight.
Like this could be your kitchen here. I already know what you're I mean, realistically, it is gonna be here.
And then this one's the kitchen, there's nothing that's decided for sure. And there's one big commons area, like, Water Valley, here's now, where they all use the same green key, but just a different time.
That greenhouse.
And then the concessions.
That same greenhouse. Probably towards the first.
They want the window. I just forgot this How big is but I really would like
Can you say this one is actually south? Then bigger than more.
Southwest there's south side, you have FCS. There's two. I could see the if they could slide those two classrooms down to put a hallway and then put a greenhouse on the south side that would be plastic over
But I'm saying, when they just gave you that much sidewalk space.
That would be of the same look as the rest of the building, so that looks like it's just part of it, just introduce part of the building. And then that would basically come out, I'd be able to come right out of my classroom. You still want to have a use in that hole. You're still going
You know, that old gymnasium is still under, you know, there's a big hole in that
could
old
also be a
building.
situation that that door can be locked. I guess we can make an easy exterior or do something like, okay, so, you know, Johnny's going to take care of plants. It's here to greenhouse part of it. But he can't get in the rest of the other ones that I think he put on greenhouse goes. You put that in, you put it
See, that's why the kitchen, everybody has to divide it. He is now
still probably around them natural gas. We've got natural gas in school.
High school kids don't sit. Nobody in the high school.
It may not be laundry drops at all.
Well, I think a burning question what you guys are talking about is,
They're not writing those down.
as long as somebody gets me sharing, I can always come to you last week and say, yeah, everything they said, we're good with it.
Just discussion on this, obviously. This is
The third group that's asked me that, yeah, absolutely. That box and that box are very.
Now,
I don't know how to say it.
Otherwise you're already trying to.
It doesn't make it hard, that's all level. It's just the whole part of the wall. Yeah, these wouldn't have to stay here, they could shift this way.
more area.
Yeah, you know.
But the reason in this plan, if you have a gym here, that commons wants to be shared.
So that's asking to
So even think in the future, if the kitchen was here, you still want to have, we had a plan that had the media center down here and choked off a lot of the commons outside of the gym and trying to make the bigger commons here. Then the flip side is, okay, it's halftime, everybody in here.
I think that one's hard.
It's just which is gonna take a minute prior
You know, to me, that would make sense.
Right here. And like I said, then you're getting two.
a separate space, because the kitchen staff and concessions staff never play nice together. And you want, at the end of the day, when you're done serving lunch, when you're done serving lunch, you wanna lock that door and know that nobody else is going in. So yes, concessions actually would be separate.
But, you know,
Yeah, I mean, worst case, it would be like a corner, right? It's a kitchen space that can be accessed from its own, have its own storage, separate, just like it is now. It's separate. It would not combine. So, I brought this point up too. Just like last time we had one big box this year, and then this time we came back and we did this one definition. I have a kitchen consultant outline our engineers who I've sent him this plan and said, hey, give me for this size, give me a kitchen plan. So, whether it's here or here, I would hope to have that back. So you can look at that and say, yeah, and to the point of, okay, garbage, deliveries, all of that, all of that, could live right here.
About a 50%.
you know, trying to figure out new normal ways to service to some other things in life.
Because when they get their
But she's here, so you have time to figure those out. But, you know, some of that stuff.
You can kind of look at that and look at the size of the That's distance from that door. So if you walk in, that's probably to the end of your
She will, I mean, she's just.
But we're not saying tonight this is the plan. I want to hear these comments. We're going to continue. That's the other challenge. You guys don't know what questions you have until you see it. I can say, hold on. If I move the kitchen there and that doesn't work, here's the new problem. Right? So we're always kind of 2 steps forward, 1 step back. We're still progressing. We're at that. 0. Oh, did we hit 0? All right. Let me talk to this ladder.
So those are, those things that, there's just going to be some things that she can't fix. You have to learn how to, how does that change life? How does that work around those things? But, health-wise, get more energy all the the rate that she was doing that all those last week, she started really dragging. She's like, this has got to be done.
Yes, it's changed, but I don't know. I always put it together.
One more treatment.
Of course, nowadays you get.
Oh, not 15 minutes. Yeah, it takes her long to check in and things, it's just really nice. So, yeah, that's everything over and
No, it's coming again
yeah,
tomorrow.
and you go do it again tomorrow and, boy, I get tomorrow, I'm gonna put some sunscreen on and I'm gonna wear a hat. No, it's just not go.
Ride the tractor car instead of work outside. We get rid of the
So, but she's still on immunotherapy. Some of them leave for the February. Yeah, so she's going to Fremont for that eventually. One of the things she took with her chemo was
well, now you're saying
so even once she's done with the radiation.
no, it doesn't change.
change, I know it doesn't change that, but it's all. Even when she's done physical therapy.
As long as you guys are ready to just share your thoughts. Keep it like
It's gonna stay the same.
Okay, everybody, our 10 minutes is up. So we're gonna try and just go table by table like we did last time. I'm gonna start down here, and we're gonna work our way around. So I would ask your group, whether you want to take your seat up there, you can speak from the plans up there. And this one
So a couple things we like. We're adding the automotive program. We talked about how that CTE space could get used. It's, again, these drawings are hard to understand scale, but that is a very large space. So not just adding automotive, but it would allow us to add other trades because of so much space. You'd be able to partition it out that way. So again, just enjoy all the extra space that we have there. We'd like to have the nurses station closer into the elementary area a little bit, just having it way up there. Ideally, we thought that'd be a better place, maybe closer to the elementary principal's office. We even considered getting rid of one of these hallways. Right now there's 2 hallways. I mean, there currently is 2 hallways in elementary, but is it necessary to have 2? Because if you get rid of one, then that gives you some great real estate to add maybe the nurses station or teacher workroom or lounge or so on and so forth. Combined teacher workroom, just talking about right now this is their workroom. It's full, it's pretty much consumed with storage. A workroom is where they have their printers, copiers, and such, but then also trying to correlate that with a lounge to make it, what should we say, a more universal spot. There was some discussion on moving having the considerations of the kitchen at the media center, just trying to figure out how that all lay out because concerns of deliveries to the kitchen. Right now, I mean, there's no doors showing, but my assumption is, and you can add to that you deliver on the north side. So you come down the north, which would work. You get a bunch of snow though, that would drift in real heavy, ice and such. So how big a deal is that? Would we have to mitigate that with equipment, salt and such? So the idea was maybe move the kitchen to the media center area, but then as soon as you do that, then you cause all kinds of problems. Greenhouse, right now we have our greenhouse way out there, trying to figure out where we should put that. The way the drawing is laid out, we think right there on the south side of those replacement classrooms might be a good spot for it. Be south facing. So, did I miss anything? Okay.
Okay, let's move to the next table here. I'd say just go ahead and stick your notes over the top of theirs to speak from.
Dr. Burke got shy this week, so I had to take over here. We kind of talked about the art room. I think if we do it, the Kill needs to be with it. Just do it all in one spot instead of having 2 separate rooms. That kind of frees up one spot there. I would think the gym and lockers kind of makes sense to do at a later time here. It kind of cuts off the budget pretty considerably, it seems like. And it seems like that'd be an easy thing to do. If we did a full consolidation, that you'd have more support of it then, because it goes from more of a want to kind of more of a need at that point. We also kind of talked about the kitchen, flipping it where the media center is now because of the delivery problem. And then we also kind of talked about the FCS room, moving it over to where we're at now because we're replacing 8 classrooms, but in effect with all of our extra moving and everything, we get actually 10 new classrooms in high school and another 4 in the elementary. It kind of seems like that's plenty more than we need right now. So that was,
So you're just gonna cut off that end?
yeah, sort of.
Yeah, so already starting to think through the process of if the budget needs to come down, what are the things we can talk about in the next meeting? And that's a good step to take. Let's go to the next table. You guys would want to share. Don't be shy.
Okay, we were looking at the kitchen, moving it closer to the street, like other people were bringing up. Perhaps switching the kitchen to the media, switch goes around. And is the kitchen too big? It just seems a lot larger than the one that we have right now. In the fitness center, there was concern of, using weights and all that, dropping on the floor, it will kind of rattle everything below it. So it's just a question whether we need a fitness center upstairs or downstairs. And then number 3 is slide the competition gym north. So it's basically trying to make these locker rooms bigger. You slid it over this direction, kind of line up here. You could make those locker rooms larger, and perhaps then slide this more over here in this area. Instead of leave everything out. That's my bring up.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to our next table.
So first thing was, it might be drawn in, it might not just be drawn in there, but we talked about having a ramp behind the stage into that storage room to make it handicap accessible, and then also accessible for all the band equipment, large band equipment, 1-act stuff. The way it's structured right now, if there's not a ramp, that doesn't solve any of those problems of getting that stuff up there safely or being handicap accessible. Didn't see a greenhouse, talked with Mr. Command about that. I mean, I think that's a consensus that maybe it should be closer to the ag facility. The gym's in a good spot. If we do decide that maybe we don't want it right now, it's in a nice spot where it can be added later and other things wouldn't be affected. Kitchen deliveries. So where the kitchen's at, I heard other people talk about swapping the kitchen and the media center, but then that makes your commons lunch, which happens every day, maybe less effective or less efficient. Switching those around. But we need some way to deliver instead of just through the front door to the kitchen. Debated the need for an elevator. We talked about temporary injuries. Maybe it's not as big of a deal, but if you do have a student that, say, is paralyzed, they're here every day just like everybody else, maybe that's a good need. Maybe it's not worth it. We weren't sure. CTE wing is excellent. The curriculum should reflect the facility. That should be a big focal point for it, we thought. So.
Thank you. Have our last table.
Go ahead. Well, I apologize, we didn't get anything wrote down.
It's already up there.
Yeah.
But we had the same feeling as a lot of these groups that the media center and the kitchen could possibly be flip-flopped. Restrooms could be down here as well with the media center. We were concerned about deliveries, where they come in. We also, on the second floor, we kind of thought maybe the fitness center would make more sense down here where it's above the commons area instead of above the reception, that type of thing. And then, we just had some discussion on, how, if you're gonna cut things, where do you cut, where do you start? It is pretty difficult. I liked the idea of the gym, as one group said, the gym can be, if we decide not to do it, it's still, that space is still available there. I like the idea of moving it over a little bit, make those locker rooms bigger. Miss anything, guys?
Good.
No comments about this area, that all looks good.
So, I thank you all for your time. I mean, I think the big theme that I heard everybody talk about was the kitchen. So that'll definitely be something that we refine as we go forward. And it's nice when you guys are in the small groups, each one had a few extra little different things, talking about maybe where the 2 corridors into the elementary, and we find some more space or efficiencies, maybe reorganizing things. That's part of this process, right? We're gonna keep refining. But 2 weeks is our goal, right, Darren? Which puts us to the 17th. So your goal, kind of study the documents that Tobin gave you. We sent this plan to Houseman the same time we sent it out to Darren into the big group, so they've had a week that they've been looking at it. With 2 more weeks, the goal is, in our next meeting, they're gonna be able to come back. And I would tell you, since we haven't necessarily cut anything yet, we're gonna be dealing with this amount of square footage. Everything you've talked about is really just moving puzzle pieces, right? Until you really start saying, well, cut this off, we're gonna give you this number in a little more specificity than what you've seen with just the surveys that we've done to date. And then we're gonna start trying to combine that cost estimate with these realities. And your challenge is, in the next meeting, or maybe one more meeting after that, we need to marry the two. We need to know what's the scope that is the true needs of the district that's balanced against the fiscal realities, okay? You might not be able to get to that point in our next meeting, and that's fine. But we will continue to meet until we can get to that point. And it's gonna be more discussions like tonight of, you know, can we swap some things? Can we change some things? Could we delete some things? That's the reality of it. And not everybody's gonna be 100% on board. But what I try to get out of these groups is you can understand where, just like we had the discussion with the daycare, right? It's a need, we show you how it could manifest itself on the plan, but when we did the blind surveys, it fell pretty low on the priorities. And then when we interjected cost, it fell even a little lower. So that's no longer in the plan. We're gonna continue that process of refinement to land on something that this committee can then recommend to the full school board. The ultimate final decision is with the school board. They have the right to vote on a bond and put forth a bond, okay? But that's your challenge. So study this over the next 2 weeks. You know where you feel comfortable. Be prepared to come back and discuss that in your small group sessions again, okay?
One thing to think about too is our pirate gym. The gym comes off of this plan and most of the rest comes in. We've just choked off entrance to our pirate gym. So we're gonna create an issue for accessibility from a new parking lot, because we're gonna take away a lot of parking lot into pirate gym through here, through a locker, right by the locker room doors would be entrance. So if we do create a.
Or you're walking all the way around.
Or we're walking all the way around, correct, all the way through to still come in the same. So there is a bit of a, we'd have to potentially find another solution for entrance to the pirate gym. If it is retained as our primary gym, but we go ahead with the rest of the scope of the project essentially that you see here. So that's something that Sawyer and Bob can help to find. But that'll be every solution creates another problem. And then you gotta fix that problem, and you find a solution, and that creates another problem, and on you go. 6 o'clock on the 17th. Right here. 6 o'clock on the 17th.
These chairs are way more comfortable.
Than the old lunchroom tables.
These chairs are way more comfortable.
That's your last discussion.
That'll be one of the agenda items, the number of this, the cost estimate. I'll have to talk with Houseman and see. That's been our goal, just like we've been sending stuff out like Friday or Saturday before. Excuse me. That would be our goal. That's their part. Steve, we had a question. I'm kind of putting you on the spot, but
Yeah.
the question was, prior to the 17th, we've always tried to release stuff to the committee that Friday, Saturday.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay. That would be our goal, so that, again, just like we did tonight, you guys should have had an opportunity to at least have this in an email. It's still part of the public meeting, but we'll work to make sure you see those so you can come prepared to discuss right away.
Is there any questions from the public after seeing this? Please go ahead and fire them off for
This
Bob.
is kind of different off the side, but do you do any cost estimates that once you build this, what's it gonna cost every year to heat and cool, and maybe another maintenance guy, and all those kinds of things to maintain?
You can. We call that a life cycle cost. We don't typically get too deep into the weeds on that at this stage. but that is a factor that the school board will have to consider too, is you're adding classroom spaces potentially, if you're adding staff, that's a general fund, that's not part of a bond. Those always come up. We're not projecting that at this point. We're just focused purely on what is construction, what is the potential cost of this. Operationally, yes, there's an ongoing cost year over year. But you could also argue on some of these, this construction with today's building codes and energy codes is gonna be more efficient than your 1920s. So there's sometimes that gets a little tricky. It's just like Darren was talking about with projections of students, you know, not knowing what utility costs are gonna maintain over the years. It's just a guess at this stage of the game.
Can you give us the dollar figure on the new gym and locker room area? If it's
It was
taken
roughly, when we did our survey that the committee saw, we broke out individual items. You're talking somewhere 5 to 6 million to do all this. Okay?
What will it cost to add it 10, 12 years from now?
It'll escalate every year. It gets more expensive. And it will likely be more economical as part of this project than as part of a standalone. But it can be done, and it has been done in other school districts. But you're gonna get a lower cost per square foot now in today's dollars, and you're gonna get a lower cost per square foot when it's aggregated with the other construction. You only mobilize once, right? You do a second separate project, you're paying some of those general conditions, the mobilization. So there is an added, if I tell you it's 5 to 6 million as part of this, if you were to cut it out separate, it might be 5.5 to 7 million as a standalone. And that's me being silly architect.
Yeah,
I really would turn over to the houseman to tell me if I'm wrong. But there's realities of, you've got evaluation, you've got taxpayers, they have to vote for it, right? So we gotta find a balance. That's the challenge. Any other questions? Okay.
Yeah, no, want to thank everybody for coming out and being here and seeing how the process goes. But, so we do appreciate that. But we've got a couple action items left for the board to handle. But again,
Committee work is done.
Yeah.
Committee, you're free to go. See you in 2 weeks.
I didn't even have any legal paper. Right.
There you go, what do you think? Big numbers.
I got this.
Most of it worked. Q&A with your coworkers. See ya. And make your gym your locker rooms from the gym. When it's really hard, where you want this guy, it's really like you put
of like when we come down for the bus. If you put a roof on there, it'll make it more
Piece of paper with I don't think it's an issue where you have to put car lines. Okay, so you did. Okay, all right. Four decisions.
Put a sign where that is.
People build to pass the law.
All right.
Oh, yeah. People have to vote.
Yeah, Jen, do you want to address this? This is the grant that Jen worked for the past several months to get, but this is one of those, sometimes you gotta pay up front on grants, or recoup the grant funds. This is one of those where they need an invoice, and then they'll reimburse. Is that accurate?
That's exactly
Oh,
what
this is provided.
This is the reading criteria.
Probably will continue.
Yeah, this is to pilot this year.
Yep. I'll make a motion.
Hey, I want to go back to what you said. The one thing I can consolidate like the summer we consolidate taxes.